Hi, this is JT Romuto. Welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hi, everybody. The Phillies Show with Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury. I'm Todd Zolecki. It's Monday morning. It's St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Either of you guys Irish?
O'Maro.
I'm not Irish.
O'Maro. Ruben O'Maro.
That's right. Today you can get rid of the A, put in an O with a little hyphen.
There you go.
There you go. You're Irish for the day.
I have a lot of Irish blood in me, yes.
All right. Well, what are you going to do, Jim, today?
I'm actually going to have corned beef and cabbage for dinner. I love it.
You do?
Where are you going?
Right here in my kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Really? Okay. So
or is your wonderful wife Ann making it?
Actually, I'm going to make it.
Really?
I go slow cooker. I do extra seasoning, extra pickling spice, and I put it in there and slow cook it all day. And then, halfway through, I add the carrots, potatoes, and the cabbage. I love cabbage.
I'm thinking maybe, Jim, I think we should have a Todd Pod. What is it called? One of those
a food show
cookbooks.
Yeah, we should. I love a good corned beef sandwich. I always get a big one too, so I can have extra corned beef.
Let's throw it out to the fans to see if they think we should go with the cookbook, with the Todd Pod cookbook.
Jim, you like cabbage? That was, I think, one of you guys said that was in the post-game spread in the 1915 World Series in our last episode.
I like cabbage too.
Just a bowl of cabbage.
I like this kind of cabbage.
Oh, yeah, there we go. With some glue. So, yeah, today, Phillies are at home today. Monday, St. Patrick's Day game. It's always fun. Fanatics in green. They're wearing the green caps. The tiki bar is going to be slammed after the game. A lot of fun. Yesterday, the Phillies were in Sarasota, and a couple things happened that made me think about kind of these bench battles that are going on. I want to get your guys' takes on it. Max Kepler and Brandon Marsh both leave the game yesterday with injuries. Kepler with a bruised lower back. Marsh with a bruised left knee. They're fine. They took him off for precautionary reasons. But in the moment, you're sitting there going, oh, my gosh. Like, that's all they need to do is lose two outfielders before, 10 days, 11 days before opening day. And it made me start thinking about some of these bench battles that they've got going on. And I wanted to see what you guys' takes, first of all, on the outfield depth, but also on how do you think these bench battles are going right now? You have Kody Clemens in the mix. Yeah, I think Johan Rojas is probably going to make the team. I know we talked last week. I left them off my opening day roster. They're going to give Brandon Marsh some run. Ruben wanted Rojas on for sure. Carlos Arroyo is in camp. Cal Stevenson, Buddy Kennedy, Oscar Mercado. Those are kind of the healthy bench candidates in camp. Do you guys see this? Where do you guys see this thing standing right now? That's now 10 days to go before opening day.
Well, when I saw those two guys leave the game yesterday, I was like, it kind of accentuated for me how thin they are out there in the outfield, not only in personnel, but in production. It's to me, it's a real kind of question mark of the team. They really need production out there more than they got last year on the whole, across the three spots. And it's been really encouraging that Kepler swung it so well.
Yep.
And I saw he likes hitting in a lineup that has all those studs in it. It sounds like it takes some pressure off him. I saw one of his quotes. But as far as, to me, Kody Clemens is going to be hard to keep off. I know he's left-handed, and you kind of ideally would like a right-handed bat. But, man, he's been swinging it really, really, really good.
Yeah, Kody Clemens is batting .361 this spring, 2 doubles, 1 triple, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, OPS over 1,000. So he's doing his job to stay on the team.
So now you think Rojas is going to make it?
Well, I'm just thinking when I saw Marsh go down, and I saw Kepler go down yesterday, I'm going, oh my goodness. But here's the thing about Rojas. And one of the reasons why I said maybe he doesn't make the roster is because he hasn't played in the outfield yet. So he's going to start throwing the bases today, Monday. And he's probably going to do it one more time, Rob Thompson said. And then he said he'll probably get in the field after that. So he could get in center field, I guess as early as midweek, later this week, before the weekend. So, I mean, how many games, Ruben, do you think he would need to play in the outfield? I mean, just one game just to show you can go out there and make a throw before he's fit to play?
No, I think he's going to be fine. Outfield play is not the issue. I know he's been tracking fly balls and doing his work out there. Paco Figueroa, one of the better outfield coaches in baseball, and I'm sure that they're working to keep him fresh. It was interesting to see Edmundo Sosa get the work that he got in. Been watching these guys on the backfield. He's been busting his rear end to try to get more and more comfortable. He's getting better out there. I think that the coaching staff is starting to feel a little more comfortable at him out there, so that's a good thing. But I still think that Rojas is – I mean, defense is the last thing that they have to worry about on with Rojas. I think he does need to get out there and get reps. But if he plays about 4 games, 5 games, I think he still has a chance to get 3 or 4 games or whatever. And they can go and send him down to the minor leagues and have him go out there and shag and play defense. There's a lot of things that they can have him do. Right now he's getting as many at bats as he can, and he's getting them in a lot of games. He's actually performed. He's hit over 300. He's done well. He's finally – I've talked to Kevin Long about him quite a bit, and he said – he's starting to just be himself, be a little bit more athletic, and not trying to lift the ball out of the ballpark, and not trying to do he's just trying to be within himself. The one thing that he does need to work on, he definitely does have to start bunting more consistently, and I have to stop banging on my desk because I keep hitting my desk and making too many sounds for this podcast. Anyway, the reality is that he has to play that short man's game. I think Kody Clemens is making this ball club. I don't think there's any question in my mind that he's making this, that he's going to make this ball club. He's too valuable, a left-handed bat off the bench. I know this doesn't sound like the right piece, but Marchán can also hit right-handed. And if they get into a pinch late in the game and they're losing, and they might have to use that other bat, Marchand's right. He's a switch hitter. So that I think factors in a little bit. And the fact that Edmundo Sosa is still on the bench and a viable right-handed bat as well. I think Kody Clemens is making this ball club, but I think Marchand's making this ball club. And unless something were to happen as far as health is concerned to one of the catchers, I don't think that's going to change. And I think Stubbs may end up be ticketed to Lehigh Valley so that this team can keep all their assets.
With Rojas, if you're that committed to giving Brandon Marsh a run in center field against righties and lefties, play him every day, I just think it makes sense to have Rojas playing every day in AAA, working on those things you talked about, getting better, and bring him, if there's a need, an everyday need, then you bring him, and it's not hard to get him here quickly. But we'll see.
Let's
That's a
continue
possibility,
that
but my feeling on that is, Jim, that I don't know that they view him as an everyday center fielder. I don't know if they view him that he needs that development, and they probably feel like they want to. I think Crawford's their center fielder of the future, and I think they're seeing that. And so,
but I still think, however you view him as a regular or a semi-regular or a bench guy, game speed reps, game intensity reps are still going to help him. It's even going to make a better bench player down the road. So.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that.
That's the way I would lean.
They're trying to put the best 26 players out there on the field every day, and I think that's probably why they'll go with Rojas in center. Could be wrong, but you may be right. They may
Rojas as the backup center fielder.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk more about that backup catcher spot. I want to ask you guys a couple bullpen questions right after these words.
Kratz, what time is it?
Time to stop overpaying for wireless with these bogus fees and, quote, free perks that actually cost more in the long run. You know what I'm saying?
What he's saying is it's time to switch to Mint Mobile with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Just check it out. See how much you can cut off your cell phone bill. Go to mintmobile.com/territory.
No unexpected overages on those bills. You get all the bells and whistles too. And I love that all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you bring over your current phone number when you switch. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/TERRITORY. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
We're back. Backup catcher spot. I want to Garrett Stubbs this spring. He's having a really nice spring. Like, he has stepped up. He's batting .375, 2 doubles, OPS over 1,000, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Marchán batting .261, One double, 3 RBIs, 650 OPS, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. I know it's small sample size for both, but is there anything that maybe, Ruben, this might be a question for you since you were in that seat 10 days before opening day. You have 2 guys going right now. The guy with options has, I guess you could say, offensively outplayed the other player. Is there anything that he could do in the final 8 Grapefruit League games where you go, you know what? I know Marchan's out of options, but I just don't see how we cannot put this other guy on the team, especially knowing his history, how valuable he is and how valued he is in the clubhouse. Is there anything that he could do in those final 8 Grapefruit League games to go, all right, we're going to figure out this, how we figure, we're going to figure something out down the road if one of these guys gets hurt and we lose Marchán?
I don't think there is. I really
Okay.
don't, and I think he's in a really tough spot. It's unfortunate, but I mean, if as someone who would be running the organization, I'd have to be selfish, and being selfish is making sure I keep all those assets. They don't really have anybody else that I think that they feel comfortable with. Should they lose Stubbs, my feeling is, or should they lose Marchán, like to waivers or to the waiver wire, I just don't think that they have anybody they feel comfortable with to be able to do that job. I know they picked up, some catchers and signed some catchers, made a trade for one. I just don't think that either one of them are to the point where they feel comfortable with that guy having to catch perhaps 60, 70, 80 games, whatever the case may be. So in case people go down. And I think it's unfortunate. It's a situation that's happened before. It happened with my buddy Gary Bennett. I think we've talked about it in the past. Gary Bennett had a great year, 1 year backing up Mike Lieberthal. Tom Prince was signed to a multi-year deal. He had options. We had to send him back. It was a very difficult thing to do, but we had to keep all our assets. Now it ended up that he ended up being back in the big leagues at some point that year, but it wasn't fair. Game's not fair sometimes, man. But as far as sometimes it's a business, and in this case, I think it's going to be a business unless something were to happen to Marchán along the way. And they're not going to go with 3 catchers. It's just not going to happen. I don't think it gives them so much less flexibility. So that would be the only other way, and that's not going to happen.
Super tough call. I mean,
Yep.
Stubbs very popular in that clubhouse. He's been a contributor to 3 postseason teams. And one of the things, on the list of things you want from your backup catcher, you want a guy who's going to add to your chemistry, not be a troublemaker, but really somebody who can handle the staff. And he's very familiar with the staff. Staff likes throwing to him. He's an outstanding game planner. He's just a big part of that pitching unit. So, but depth is really valuable, and if you want to know how valuable it is, if you're going to break camp with 2 catchers, Real Muto and somebody else. One of those guys gets dinged and has to go on the IL for a couple weeks, and you've lost one of those guys. Who are you going to bring?
Right.
Who are you going to bring? It's what do you think is going to happen, Todd?
I mean, I still think it's going to be Marchán for the same reason that both of you guys think it's going to be Marchán. You got to plan for the worst. It would be, what you don't want to happen is 3 weeks into the season, JT gets banged up, or Stubbs gets banged up, and now you're digging a little bit deeper into the system and
Right.
finding yourself a little bit more shorthanded. So I understand. I was just kind of more curious because it is interesting that Stubbs has played pretty well this spring. He's kind of done what he's needed to do so far, and it still might not be enough. Matt Strahm,
it's like somebody gets dinged up, and you send if you keep Stubbs and somebody gets dinged up in 3 weeks, and you're like, okay, let's bring Marchán. Oh, we can't. We traded him the Marlins claimed him on waivers, or we traded him in this deal. It's really
I've actually lived this myself. I mean, I had a really good spring myself on a personal note. In 94, I think it was, I had a terrific spring with the Cleveland Indians, and we had so many players. I didn't have any options. They had to throw me through waivers very, very late. I got through and went to Charlotte, but they were really, at some point, they decided to keep Manny Ramirez on the team. Imagine that. And so These are difficult calls, man, and they're things that sometimes have to happen. But in this case, you got to keep all your assets, and I think this is the only way they're going to be able to do that.
So Matt Strahm yesterday threw from 90 feet. He's pain-free. He says the inflammation's out of there. Again, 10 days before opening day. Not sure what he's going to throw from today, but likely he's going to open the season on the injured list. He said yesterday, he's like, I think I'll be ready, but I got to listen to what they want me to do. So there's really only a handful of guys in camp that could maybe fill his spot in the bullpen. I'm going to say right now, Taijuan Walker's on this team. He's going to make the bullpen one way or the other. The guys on the 40-man roster still in camp competing for a bullpen job would be Devin Sweet, Michael Mercado, Tyler Phillips, and then Kyle Tyler. Kyle Tyler's a starter. He's thrown the ball pretty well this spring. And I asked Rob Thompson after the game yesterday, I think he threw like another scoreless inning. I said, he came into camp as a starter. He said he was going to be a starter, but he's still in camp. He's been throwing an inning or two. Could you see him as a reliever? He's like, yeah, I would throw him into the mix. So I'm not saying he's going to make the team as a reliever, but he's in camp. He's pitching out of the bullpen. He says Rob Thompson says he could be a reliever. The only non-roster reliever in camp right now is Nabil Krismet, who has a lot of big league experience with the Padres. This spring, he's 6 appearances, 2.35 ERA, 7 2/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Devin Sweet, who I mentioned earlier, got a little big league time. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Michael Mercado had 2 good innings yesterday in Sarasota, struggled early in camp. And then Tyler Phillips, who's out of options, has struggled. He's got 7 walks and 7 2/3 innings this spring, giving up 8 runs. So I just wanted to throw those names out there. Do you guys have any thoughts on any of those guys? You talk about preserving depth pieces, but Krismet's thrown the ball really well. He's a non-roster guy. You have to bump somebody off. I imagine, though, that's a lot different than talking about the number 2 catcher and losing a potential number 2 catcher, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is different. Catching's one thing, and you start putting these guys sort of in a box and trying to figure out which guy is the best guy. I think that there's enough depth overall that they have with their overall pitching to be able to get through this okay. And, I think the decision is sort of negligible because I don't think that this player is he's going to be pitching in like real big situations. And he's going to be somebody that's going to create just a little bit more depth in the bullpen. You really can't replace Strahm. He was just too darn good. He's not a guy that that replacement is going to have to be a guy like Alvarado, who's going to step into his role, I would think, with the way he's pitching. So, my feeling is just like in most situations, when you're getting down to it, it's going to be a decision that is made once you find out late in this spring. When the pitchers have a little bit of intensity and anxiety, you find out a lot about those guys when they know that they're on the cusp, when they know that they're on the bubble, to see how they react when they pitch in the last 2 or 3 outings before they break camp. And that'll tell you a lot about the guy's ability to be able to step forward when he has to pitch in Citizens Bank Park or in a major league ballpark. And so my feeling is for these guys, these last 2 or 3 outings that they have are big for them. The Krismets of the world, the Tyler Phillipses of the world, the Tylers of the world, they're all really important innings, Devin Sweet. And I think it's going to be down to, at the end of the day, trust. Does Caleb Cotham and Rob Thompson trust these guys to be able to throw strikes and get outs in the major leagues? And which guy's going to do it the best? I know that Tyler Phillips hasn't had a great spring. At times okay, other times not great. I know that the way he competes, Devin Sweet, sometimes okay, sometimes not so okay. Can he throw enough strikes? Great changeup. Krismet's been really, really good, pretty consistent throughout the spring. I think it's going to be get down to the point where, okay, can this guy really pitch when it's super tight and when they know they have to make a decision on them here in their last couple of outings? It'll be interesting.
Don't you have to factor in that whoever is the guy that gets that final bullpen spot is not going to potentially will not be here for long because Strahm is going to come right back. So if you put Krismat on the 40, now when Strahm gets back, you got to get him through to keep him in the organization.
Yeah, I don't know if he has options or not. Does Krismat have options?
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure. That's something that you have to find out.
You
And
could
that's a fact.
potentially
You're right.
lose somebody. So
It is a factor. There's no question.
I don't
about
know
it.
where. Yeah, I don't know if he has options or not. But
Right.
I mean, the fact that that person might only be here a short time, and then whatever the roster machinations are, you could potentially lose that depth depending on where they are with options and whatnot. I think
Right.
you have to factor that in, that he's only going to be here a short time. You hope Strahm's back like that.
Right.
Guys, it's Monday, so it's time for Best Week by Manco and Manco.
Best of the best, baby.
Best of the best, baby. Best of the best by Manco and Manco is where we pick our best Phillies player, performance, play, whatever we wanted. Best corned beef and cabbage in Westchester, Jim, if you want to give a shout out, if you have a name there. So let's start with you, Jim. Let's start with you. Who do you have for best of the week?
So I'm kind of, not really, I'm coloring outside the lines here. I'm not going to give you one guy. One thing that's really impressed me on this, Manco, best of the best, is the way this pitching staff is throwing strikes. I mean, it's really impressive. Every time I look at the box score, all your main guys are pretty much throwing strikes. And I just was going to, go over a couple things here. Christopher Sanchez, 11 2/3 innings, 17 Ks, just 2 walks. Jose Alvarado, 6 innings, 15 Ks, 3 walks. Okay, that's 3 walks. The rest of these guys have all walked 1 batter. Luzardo, 10 Ks, 1 walk. Wheeler, 9 Ks, 1 walk. Nola, 8 Ks, 1 walk. Romano, 7 Ks, 1 walk. Kirkring, 6 Ks, 1 walk. Taijuan Walker, 9 1/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, just 5 strikeouts, but just 1 walk. Ranger Suarez, 4 strikeouts, just 1 walk. I mean, I know these are not full workloads, full spring workloads, but 2 weeks before the home opener, less than 2 weeks before opening day, what's the expression? They're flooding the strike zone.
Oh, I like
Wow.
that.
So that's my
great.
I like my pizza flooded with pepperoni, sausage, and onion. That's my favorite combo. And these guys are flooding the strike zone. So that's my Manco best of the best.
That's why you're one of the best, Jim. Great call.
That's a good one.
I like that call. Todd, what do you got?
So last week on Friday, we talked about Trey Turner maybe turning things around. And, Friday against, it was against the Tigers, right? Ruben, you were here. Trey Turner strikes out on 7 pitches to open the game against Tarek Skubal. He fouled off 5 pitches, struck out swinging on the 7th pitch. The next at bat hits an 0-1 changeup to right center field for a base hit. And then a 5th inning against Skubal hits a sacrifice fly to right center field. And then he had another hit yesterday in Sarasota, had a walk. So Trey Turner started spring 0 for 15, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. And then the last week or so, or last week, I should say, 4 for 9, 4 walks, 2 sac flies, 1 K in the last, how many games. So he's really kind of turned it on. And I asked him yesterday or a couple days ago about it. And about the Skubal game. After the Skubal game, I said, what do you take out of these at-bats? You feel like you're kind of coming around, because we were talking about it. He said, I feel like in 2 weeks, one of those pitches I fouled off in the first at-bat, I'll hit hard somewhere. He striked me out, but I liked the first 6 pitches. The last one was up, but the battle was there. The approach is coming. It's getting there. And I thought this was kind of an interesting thing. Kevin Long, I had mentioned that Trey Turner told him, he's like, as long as I feel good with 3 or 4 games to go, I'm fine. And so I asked him about that. I said, how do you, is that true? He said, yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of a false flag when you start out the spring really hot, at least for me. I feel like the pitching changes a little bit. Guys start to throw different pitches, toward the end, start trying to do certain things. So I feel like early on success for me isn't as much of a big deal. At the end of the camp, I'd rather be struggling early in camp than struggling at the end of camp. So he says, right now, I kind of feel like I'm getting to where I need to be. So again, just small sample size, just 1 week. But Trey Turner, I thought, had a really good week. He looked a lot better at the plate. And I think as the Phillies try to figure out their lineup, I think it is going to be Trey Turner in leadoff spot. I don't know why at this point you wouldn't. I think give it a shot. So it's encouraging to see Trey Turner kind of show a little bit more offensively. Just spring training. He doesn't care what his batting average is, but just to see him kind of turn things around a little bit going into the final 10 days before opening day is an encouraging sign.
Yeah, great call, Todd. And let me just add on to that. He played really well defensively. A couple of excellent plays to his left. Jimmy Rollins-esque type plays where he went to his left and spun and made a couple of really good throws. Looks like he's securing the baseball well. I mean, he's somewhat shaky at times defensively, but I think, again, for him, it's the work and the confidence. Even though he's been a veteran guy, I think confidence is a big thing for him, especially defensively. And I think that he seems to be turning the corner. Been doing a lot of work with Bobby Dickerson on the backfields, on the small field there, and on the half field, and it's starting to pay off. It looks like he's looks more confident, looks more competent, and I think that was part of this turnaround in his game as well. So pretty good call. As far as my call is, I love the way Alvarado's throwing the baseball right now. He's the best of the best. The Manco, best of the best for me. Just with the way he's throwing the baseball, and it's very timely with Strahm having gone down, and for him to be able to step forward. I really believe that if he gains the confidence and continues with the confidence, came into camp, I know they're trying to soft shoe it a little bit. He's really in good shape. He's different. I know they say that he doesn't, his weight's not all that different, and redistributed, but there's no question in my mind that he is leaner and he is stronger and he looks much better. And I think he's put the work in. I think he's confident about his stuff. The ball is coming out of his hand like lightning. And not only that, but the most important part of it, his command of the strike zone is really very good. And if I know he's flipping in a little different breaking ball from time to time, but his bread and butter is that sinker cutter combination, and he's throwing it at 100 miles an hour and bringing it and then throwing strikes with it. He's been the best of the best for me, and I hope that he carries it into the season because that is a monster weapon out of the bullpen with that kind of arm.
That's some good stuff, guys. And let's close on this. I wrote in spring training, Jim, at the end of camp, you're kind of looking for story ideas. You feel like you've written everything like 50 times. And so
that's when you write them all again. All the stuff you wrote in the first week, you revisit.
Exactly right. And so yesterday I wrote a little story at MLB.com. I found this, they tweeted out or posted on Instagram this graphic before camp opened. They did these wind studies. StatCast can now measure the wind effect at ballparks. And I thought it was interesting. Citizens Bank Park, the wind has prevented 48 balls from leaving the yard over the last 2 years. There's only 3 other parks in baseball that have lost more home runs or prevented more home runs because of the wind. I think it was Kauffman Stadium, T-Mobile Park in Seattle, and of course Wrigley Field in Chicago. And I just thought it was interesting because you guys remember this in 2004 in those first several years. Like, man, Citizens Bank Park got crushed for being such a cheap park, bandbox. And turns out last few years, at least, it's actually killed a lot of home runs because of the wind. So it's still kind of home run friendly. I talked to Bryce Harper about it. Bryce Harper has lost supposedly 6 home runs over the last 2 years because of the wind. And he goes, 6 home runs would be pretty good. Yeah, add that up over an average of his 13-year contract. That's 39 lost home runs if that would stay true. So big difference. But what do you guys think of that? Was that surprising to you? Do you care at all? I mean, I talked to some of the players. They're like, it's interesting. We do talk about the wind a lot, but we're also not obsessed about it. But I did remember what John Smoltz said years ago. David Wells, Jake Peavy, Leo Mazzone, all these guys kind of crushed Citizens Bank Park, and maybe it's not so bad.
Well, wind, as you know, Todd, is my least favorite element. And it's
Jim in
probably
the press box, Ruben. Jim in the press box. He has.
It's because
really
his
his
papers
fault.
are everywhere. He's got no organization. His
He
crap's
spreads
everywhere
everything
on
out.
that
He
desk.
has nothing. He has nothing weighed down. Loose papers everywhere. A stiff breeze comes through. That goes everywhere.
I just
Jim gets
but
very angry.
I guess Bryce Harper is probably his least favorite element. He's lost 39 home runs.
Well, he could potentially lose it over the 13-year.
And then he hits
13-year
3.
deal.
Didn't he hit 3 in an ice storm last April?
Yeah, that's right.
How do you figure this stuff? You gotta play in the elements. I mean, obviously
Right.
you can't play in a downpour. They cover the field, but sometimes you play in the cold. Sometimes it's like, you just deal with it. And it does. Citizens Bank Park is kind of open, so you can see where the wind would affect it. It's not like
Right.
they got a lot of stuff out in center field blocking the wind. Like I look at Citi Field, you almost feel like you're in a dome without a roof. There's these big sides to it. So it's something to keep an eye on. But it is interesting to hear that the park has denied some home runs when you frame it against some of the critiques against the park when it first opened. But, you had a lot of people cutting on the park and saying you'll never build a pitching staff there. But,
I think we
the
did.
park opened in 2004, and 7 years later, you built one of the best pitching staffs ever. So you know what? You put the ball in good spots in the strike zone and change speeds, and you pitch. You can win in any park. But I mean, I'm getting off not on the topic at hand, which is the wind. It's interesting, and it also just tells you how sophisticated stat keeping is these days. They can measure all that stuff.
I have to say this. I chalk this up as don't worry about things you can't control.
Right.
I mean, and I think the players have taken the right attitude after having seen that article, Todd. It just seems like the players are like, okay, whatever. What are we going to do? And I think it was a big deal when we first opened the ballpark. There's no question it was a little short. We moved it back, and it probably saved. I think we did a study. I think my man Jay McLaughlin helped me do a study about that. I think it saved us maybe 30 home runs during the course of the 05 season. After the 04 season opening up, and that had those flower bed home runs that probably are a little cheap. We moved it back. Was it 5 or 10 feet down in the left side of the field, of the outfield? But I think that this is basically playing fair. And I think, Jim, you make a great point. And to dovetail onto some of the other topics we talked about, the great thing about what Caleb Cotham has brought to this organization for me is the combination of understanding pitching and being able to get guys mechanics to the point where they're throwing consistent strikes, and they're not so much caught up in velocity and spin rate. Those are important, but they don't put those first. What's first is throwing strikes, and that's what you're seeing this spring, and that's what you've seen generally from this staff, and that's why it's pretty darn good. Their walk to strikeout rates are excellent. It's one of the better staffs in baseball. They will give up some hits. There's no question about it. But I think Caleb Cotham does a pretty darn good job. And if you do that as a staff, the wind, the sun, the rain, none of it matters, because if you're getting outs, you're getting soft contact, you're getting your job done. And I think Caleb's done a really nice job in that area.
Jim, you remember you talked about how sophisticated stat keeping is. Do you remember? This isn't really stat keeping, but do you remember in 2004? I know you remember this, but do you remember in 2004 when like Kevin Millwood was on home plate with a golf range finder? He was looking at the distances on the wall because he didn't believe them, and they were not labeled correctly. They were moved over a few feet, and so Jim and I went up to Larry Schenk, the former VP of Media Relations, Public Relations.
Baron.
We went up to the Baron and we said, we would like to measure the wall distances now that because they changed them, they moved them over and whatever. They said, these are correct. I said, well, how about we just go out and measure? So Jim and I, one day, real early, we went out with Larry Schenk, Mike Buckhalter, the groundskeeper at the time, who was not happy with us, as I recall. And
no one was
he took a tape measure at home plate, and we would string it all the way down the left field line. And we went to every marking around the field. They were correct, but that was a fun day. It was an interesting day.
Those were the days when I didn't like you guys very much.
Oh,
Ruben, do you remember us doing that? I mean,
I remember quite
you
well.
Remember?
And look how times have changed. Yes. I love you guys.
But think about
now
it.
We're eating pizzas together.
Hey, no, you were doing your job. You were doing your job. And that's, you can't fault that. Doesn't mean I wasn't pissed off at you.
Right.
You weren't the only one.
But
that's right.
I know. I remember the late, great David Montgomery, the all-time greatest people ever. He was not real thrilled with us critiquing the ballpark and the distances and stuff. But the pitchers had made it such a huge thing.
Yeah.
That first year. And then when they realized the distances were on the wall were incorrect, they moved them over, whatever, 10, 15 feet or whatever. We said, all right. You said you moved, let's just go out and prove it, and they were correct.
It was a little like a brush fire in the clubhouse because, they open the park, it's playing small, and one pitcher starts complaining. Then the next pitcher starts complaining. Before you know it, the whole staff is just, the whole clubhouse pitching-wise is complaining about the and I remember writing a story about it, and I remember talking to Ed Wade about it, and he was not particularly thrilled with the line of questioning.
Nope.
But he had a great quote. He said, we only been open 2 months. I think it's a little too early to declare Citizens Bank Park at the foothills of the Rockies, comparing it to Coors Field. Because I think I may have done some comparisons to Coors Field, but in due time, like I mentioned, you pitch good, you locate, I still believe in keeping the ball down. Keep the ball down in good spots, and then ride it up top when you have to. Like you pitch, and you can win anywhere. And they have proven that over the years. They've had two really good pockets of winning here. And 2025 should be another one with this pitching staff.
And it's because of their pitching, not necessarily the offensive players that they have. And I do believe that in my heart of hearts that, they put themselves in this position to have success and to be a World Series contender because of their pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ruben O'Maro, enjoy your St. Patrick's Day. I'll see you here. Jim, enjoy your corned beef and cabbage. Maybe send us a little food pic once you get it going. Send it to Ruben, man. We want to see what it looks like.
I'll definitely, I'll definitely, maybe I'll make a sandwich tomorrow. Next time we do a podcast.
I need an honest assessment of your own, of your own makings and doings.
Oh, yeah. I'll nail it.
So we will be back later this week with more Phillies talk, guys. So I'll talk to you later.
Smell you later, boys.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.